2016, Matt Meyer was a 6th and 7th grade math teacher when he first ran for public office, defeating a heavily favored 3-term incumbent in a grassroots campaign to serve as the chief executive of Delaware's largest county. When COVID-19 threatened the health and safety of Delawareans, Meyer led the county government in taking unprecedented and innovative actions to keep residents safe from the virus, to protect the most vulnerable in our community, and to plant the seeds for a strong and fast economic recovery. Meyer led efforts that resulted in Delaware being the first state in the country to offer free open COVID-19 saliva tests. In his innovative efforts to monitor wastewater to measure COVID-19 prevalence has been featured by CNN and Rachel Maddow on MSNBC. Mr. Meyer is a graduate of Brown University and University of Michigan Law School. He grew up in Cardiff and attended Brandywine School District and graduated from Wilmington Friends School. Prior to becoming county executive, Mr. Meyer worked as a math teacher, a diplomat in Iraq, an economic advisor to Delaware Governor Jack Markell, and started 2 successful businesses. He has worked as an attorney in New York law firm at Simpson Thacher and as a Skadden Arps Fellow at Community Legal Aid Society, Incorporated in Delaware. Join me in welcoming Matt Meyer.
Wait, Jasmine, wait up here for a minute. Can we give another round of applause to Jasmine? Do me a favor, you're graduating soon, don't run against me. Well, that was really, really good. Thank you so much. This is a star in the accounting classroom, on the softball field, and it's really an honor for me to be here with you today. Good morning to the class of 2026. It's great to see everyone here today. I know many of you have been through quite a journey to get here, a little bit different journey than in prior classes and in prior years with what's been going on in high school and in college across our country and across the world. And I just want to salute each and every one of you for getting here to this day. I also want to take a minute to salute Dr. Keith, the Board of Trustees, the faculty and staff of Goldey-Beacom, which make this not only an outstanding institution for each of you and our families, but an extraordinary place for our community and for our county. Let's give them a big round of applause. So as Jasmine said, my name is Matt Meyer. I'm the Newcastle County Executive. It's a little like the mayor of Newcastle County. How many people here from Delaware? From Delaware? For those not from Delaware, Newcastle County has about 570,000 people. It's about 60% of the population of the state. And my job is effectively to be the mayor. Before I ran for office, as Jasly mentioned, I was a middle school math teacher, and I had a class just about every day at 11:45 in the morning. I knew the best way to win friends in politics is not to wow them with policies or poetry or political favors, but rather to keep it short when you're talking right before lunch. So I imagine not a single person here has had lunch yet, so I'm going to keep it short. Just 2 quick stories. When Dr. Hammond invited me to come and speak today, my first thought was of myself and my family when my big brother first went to college and his first day. I remember going to his dorm room. He was meeting his new roommate, Josh, from I think Michigan. That was exciting for the whole family. Maybe you experienced something similar the last few days. I was in high school. He was the first to go to college. And here I was, sitting in his dorm room, talking to Josh. I thought I'd start with a little small talk. My big brother loved music. So I said, Josh, what kind of music do you like? I don't like music, he said. Oh boy, this is going to be hard. I thought my brother for years complained about living with me, but he didn't know Josh. This is going to be really, really hard. On the whole ride home, I was talking to my parents, what's going to happen? He's got to live with Josh for the year. Is it going to last? Can he get out? Can he change roommates? Well, lo and behold, a few months later, Josh was one of my brother's closest friends. To this day, decades later, Josh remains one of my brother's closest friends. First impressions aren't always what they seem. There may be people here who don't share your musical tastes, your artistic tastes, your political tastes. You can still be friends. You can still be close friends. You can still learn from each other. Sometimes you learn more. Maybe you'll learn a new kind of music, a new kind of wine, a new kind of politics. A little after college, I was a lawyer at a big law firm, as was mentioned. At their time, our country was fighting two wars, a war in Afghanistan and a war in Iraq. We have no military draft these days in America, so there's no legal obligation to go and serve. Nobody's required to go and serve in our military. The consequence of that is our country sends only those who sign up. Those who raise their hands to say, hey, I want to be in the Army, the Navy, Air Force, Marines. The consequence is that many kids who had the money to go to law school or medical school or to Goldey-Beacom, usually, not always, but usually didn't go to fight in wars in Afghanistan or Iraq. Kids who needed a job or money for college, those are most of who we sent to go and fight our war. I thought that was wrong. So as a young lawyer, I looked to sign up with the military. That wasn't in the cards, but about a year later, I did find myself on a military aircraft in Mosul, Iraq. Not as a soldier, but as a diplomat for the United States State Department. One of about 10 diplomats on a base of 10,000 soldiers, living in Mosul for 12 months in 2010. The US military went to Iraq to secure the country. The US diplomats, like me, went to work with Iraqis to create a lasting peace. In my year living there, I expected to learn mostly about Iraq, about Islam, about the Kurdish and Sunni Arab cultures that surrounded us. And I did learn about them. But more than anything, I learned about America. You see, there were 10,000 soldiers on that base, mostly Army. They came from across our country, the most diverse group with which I had ever worked. 3 or 4 days a week, we left the base in a secured convoy to meet with Iraqis. I had what they called a protection platoon, and I spent much of each day sitting in an MRAP, an Army tank, with a headset on, conversing with those in my NRAP, those soldiers whose mission it was to protect me and my diplomatic team. Now imagine that. So we're out for hours in Iraq. Sometimes it's as hot as 125 degrees. And we're in these tanks for hours. And so much of what I did in Iraq is I was on the headset talking to these 4, 5 guys in my tank with me. There was Will, the lieutenant who commanded the platoon, Corporal Tony, who drove, Specialist Larry, the gunner, standing up in the turret, Sergeant Rod Cologne, who sat in back with me. And we would spend hours traveling up, down, and across northern Iraq. And in those hours, we would talk and we would listen. Will grew up in a small town in Arkansas. He once told me he never really met any person of color until he joined the Army. Tony grew up on Long Island outside New York. He would never miss an opportunity to talk about grandma's home-cooked Italian meals back home. Larry would spin around the turret, scanning the Iraqi countryside with a bigger gun than I'd seen in my life. He was keeping us safe while telling us stories of growing up black in Alabama, in a family that never really believed in the promise of our country. How he saw every day growing up the inequalities in our country and in his community. Daily aggressions and what we now call microaggressions that I found really hard to fathom. And Rod Cologne was in back with me. He was in his last few years before he could retire with a nice pension. He was soft-spoken, but believed strongly that his Puerto Rican home should be made a full and equal state in our country. So there we were, in Iraq, in a war none of us really had chosen or wanted. On those long rides, we spoke in our headsets about things far, far away from the war. I remember on Valentine's Day, each of us shared a story about our greatest love. The story I'm not going to share today. And a couple days later, Tony from Long Island got on and said, okay, we talked about our love, now we got to talk about our greatest heartbreak. We had fun and we argued and we understood how different each of us were and how unlikely it would ever be that we would have met if not for that horrific war. What's ironic as I stand before you today is I believe you don't have to go to Iraq to have that same extraordinary opportunity. As I look around the room and as I know the diversity that Dr. Keith and the admissions office here and everybody works to bring to Goldey-Beacom, you can have that right here in Delaware. As I oversee your police and your paramedics, your 911 and your parks, your libraries, and yes, even your sewers, that's what I often think about. How do we treat each other with respect and dignity? No matter your musical tastes, where you were born, or how you speak. How do we look across our county, across this beautiful school community, and have respect and admiration for what we built, this extraordinary college that was built together. Goldey-Beacom is truly a beacon. It is a beacon of light not only for our county community, but for families across this world. This is a school with extraordinary diversity for Little Delaware. So many students and faculty from across the world. You're here to pursue opportunity, and we are all here to collaborate to make it possible. You'll learn from your teachers. I hope you learn a lot, but if your experience is anything like mine and my brother's, you're going to learn a lot more from your fellow students, from your peers. Listen to them. Don't just write people off. Find someone who is totally unlike you and get to know them. I think we all know, as we look across our country now, and even right here in Newcastle County, we need that now more than ever. That sense of respect for difference, that interest in learning from each other. Thank you all for your time. Good luck, and for any parents out there, homeowners in Newcastle County, I expect your calls when you get your sewer.